We seek the truth.
Would you be handing your resignation to the Minister of Culture tomorrow, sir?
No, I will not.
The leader of the opposition, you have accused your government, sir, of using the Grenada Development Bank to facilitate the financing of personal loans for certain government ministers.
The other side is in no position to talk about those issues, and I will leave it there.
We discover new perspectives.
You know his leadership style, and so many are saying, why are you coming now to talk about those issues?
Now is the time to speak. You have the right to decide who will take over.
And you met with Dr. Mitchell, and perhaps you might want to confirm what that meeting was about in your response. But
Dr. Mitchell, like myself, are Grenadians.
We ask the right questions.
Why was there no report on the work done of the commission? And how is this new committee different from the commission that was initially established back in 2022? So who are these elements that are using you?
I'm disappointed in my political leader.
And why is that animating those political conversations now?
This is a very interesting question.
The Bubb Report with Dr. Kellon Bubb. Thought-provoking, truthful, unbiased, and truly original reporting.
Tell us, a commissioner of police, tell a politician, back off. You have no knowledge of the law. You have no knowledge of law enforcement. You cannot force my officers to do the wrong thing.
But that is somebody's son. That is somebody's child. That is part of a family. And I think that is the part that they are missing out.
Because E and F are apt to be used oppressively.
It's like because we don't see disabled people as sexual beings, which is ridiculous.
You mean they don't want to listen to your version of science? They have their own science. You have your science.
What we need to do is teach people to think and not what to think.
Today, it's too bad that everybody do what they want.
If I could forgive Bernard Ford, then I could forgive Bob Morris too. And today, on this day, I no more have anything in my heart for what he did.
The education system has to be very fluid and dynamic because we're living in very different and changing times.
Treating all your citizens equally, all your citizens fairly, recognizing each group, not discriminating against one or the other.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
A pleasant good morning to our viewers and listeners of the Bubb Report, and we're happy that you can join us for another Sunday program here live on the Bubb Report. Of course, you know, every week we aim to bring you quality programming, and of course, the last couple of weeks has been very, very hard-hitting, and of course, today will be no different. But as usual, we always like to know where our viewers and listeners are joining us from. So, of course, if you can in the chat, just let us know where you're watching the program from today. I see Sharon Dwyer on. Sharon, good morning to you. We also have Ruth Thomas, who's joining us. Ruth is over there on our YouTube page. We have Angela Hall is here. Then we have Miss Lydia Louison, a regular viewer, joining us from Montreal in Canada. We also have one Ludwig Purcell. Miss Purcell, are you from St. David? Of course, there are some Purcells in the Labu community there in St. David's. Of course, we have, who else here? Ruth Thomas is, of course, joining us from Grenada. We also have Lydia James, Lydia, who's joining us from Lydia. You know, one day you have to come on the Bubb Report to talk about Calypso judging. You know, you've contributed a lot to Grenadian culture. So maybe one day we will definitely love to have you in the room to talk about carnival and culture, because I think if we are to think about the annals of Grenadian history, I think your name has to be written there for your contribution to Calypso and the art form. Of course, we have Kerry Edwards, who's joining us from Grenada. Anthony DeRiggs is joining us from Brooklyn. And then we have Augustine James, who is also in Brooklyn. We have Rochelle, who is in Brooklyn as well. We have someone from St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. That's Mr. Barry Batiste. So, folks, just make sure that you're sharing this week's program and that you're allowing everyone an opportunity to partake in what we have on offer for you today. But, of course, as we normally do, we will get to this week's editorial first before getting on to our first guest, or first and only guest, or highlight guest, or spotlight guest for this week's program. And for this week's editorial, here goes. Now, since his election to the post of the Speaker of the House of Grenada's House of Representatives on the 31st of August 2022, Leo Cato has held the high office of presiding over the lower house of the Grenadian Parliament. Now, the role of Speaker is not merely ceremonial, as it demands impartiality, a firm upholding of parliamentary procedures, protection of minority rights, and ensuring that debate serves the public interest. Yet, in his tenure so far, Cato appears to be falling short on several fronts. One hallmark of a strong speaker is visible leadership in ensuring robust, timely debate and the highest standards of oversight. Now, Cato's initial statement upon his appointment of Speaker spoke to raising the tone of discussions in the House. Mr. Cato said this: the fundamental role is to ensure that he or she adjudicates fairly and ensures that the best interest of the people of the nation is served, unquote. But the publicly accessible records show little evidence that the House has become markedly more engaged or empowered under his stewardship. Now, let's just say Cato is no Sir Kurt Strachan or George Maguire or even Dr. Lawrence Joseph before him. Now, while Cato came into the role with a background in education and ICT rather than in long-standing parliamentary service, this does not excuse the Speaker's fundamental duty to act transparently and without favor. But the early signals raises questions. His elevation was endorsed by the government in flattering terms. But since taking office, the perceptions linger that rather than being a competent arbiter, he is often chastised by both government and opposition alike with respect to his lack of management of the affairs of the sitting. Of course, last week we saw that the Prime Minister had to direct the Speaker to go back to previous agenda items on the order paper. Now, the last two sessions of Parliament also bore that out in spectacular fashion. Now, in conclusion, viewers and listeners, the Bubb Report believes that Leo Cato's performance as Speaker is underwhelming at best, given the gravity of the role and the opportunities presented before him to treat with the Parliament in the way that we see the upper house is being treated under the stewardship of Senate President Dr. Decima Williams. He has, of course, his performance continues to be under scrutiny, but not in the way that it is supposed to be, not in a positive light, at least. Of course, we here therefore call for an improvement in the standard of the performance of the Speaker of the House, because that certainly does not augur well for the democratic process in Grenada. So, folks, what we want to do now is to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with our guest for this week. Please stand by.
Don't go there.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me here for much more than diplomatic passports. I don't mind that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. Let us talk. Let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bubb Report. We go there.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
And folks, welcome back to this week's edition of the Bubb Report. Now, as you're coming into the room, remember to like and share this week's live stream to our viewers over on YouTube, with the 200 or so of you who are there so far. Of course, that usually builds. We have over 700 viewers on YouTube at any given time on Sunday. So please, as you're coming into the YouTube page, please like the stream. Of course, the algorithm likes when you like the stream, so that it can have the opportunity to recommend this week's program, and of course any other program that we do here on the Bubb Report to other viewers who may not have an opportunity to tune in live, at least. Of course, and folks, we want to, of course, get to some other viewers before we get to our guest this week. We have Victor Palmer, who is joining us from Winnipeg. Victor, what's the temperature up in Winnipeg now? I suspect it's probably very cold there. We have Rhea Williams, who's joining us from St. John, St. Andrew. Then we have Jocelyn Peters, who's joining us from Seamoon in St. Andrew. Unison Joseph is from Barrie, Canada. Unison, where in Canada is Barrie? I'm not familiar with that location. But certainly, thank you for joining us. Now, for today's program, the Bubb Report is honored to sit with the political leader of Grenada's newest political organization, which will be formally launched next week, Sunday, November 16th, at the Grenada Trade Center. Now, in a national address announcing the launch of the movement, David insisted that this organization is not just another party, but a new chapter in the nation's democratic history. Peter David's announcement comes less than a year after his resignation from the new National Party following a series of palace intrigue events over the future leadership of the NNP, in which Mr. David offered himself up as leadership. However, members of the rank and file party of the new National Party did not agree with having Mr. David as their future leader, of course, and the rest is history. Now, David, who is now an independent member of parliament, who has been an MP for the two main post-revolutionary political parties in Grenada, said as he announced plans for the new political entity this past year that, quote, he has done a lot of listening and observing, while at the same time refusing to participate in the politics of noise, unquote. David also said, quote, we are careful not to say the people are launching a party because this is too limiting. It is a first-rate movement inspired by dreams and determination, by prayer and purpose, unquote. David said, adding that on November 16, quote, we will formally unveil the vision of a distinctively Grenadian project, unquote. And at this time, I'm happy to welcome the Honorable Peter David, the Member of Parliament for the town of St. George. Mr. David, I believe this is probably your first media interview since your formal announcement of the launch of the movement. So welcome to this week's edition of the Bubb Report. I just unmute your mic there, sir. Just unmute the mic.
Yes, a pleasure, Kellen.
Yes.
Always a pleasure coming with you. I know when I speak with you, I speak with Grenadians not only in Grenada, but all over the world, what we call the diaspora generally. And
Yes.
No, pleasure to be here and good to see you and keep up the good work.
Yes, absolutely. But Mr. David, of course, everyone knows you in the context and the prism of politics and public service and law and things like that. But tell us about Peter David, the person. What does Peter like doing in his free time? Do you do dominoes? Do you lime? What does Peter do in his free time?
Free time. I'm not sure what you're speaking about. There's hardly any of that. I like reading. I like relaxing. I like being with people. I think my entire life has always been, well, you know that, sitting with the young people on the block, chatting, having conversations. I do play some sport, but I'm not a major sportsman. Don't claim to be. I played cricket in River Road the other day, and I was running down the wicket, and I fell all over my body, and still hurts. But no, I do take time to relax. Do take time to spend time with family, my kids, my grandkids. We have a very close knit relationship with all my kids and grandkids, and I do enjoy. I enjoy mostly being with people.
Mostly being with people. So I'm surprised that you're not into sport, given that you went to the esteemed GBSS.
Yes, well, I used to run when I was in GBSS. I did run track and field, so I was. I remember, Keller, that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago.
The body is not where it used to be at the time I played sports. I did play sports as a young man, but no, not anymore. And I spend most of my time, with young people, with family, and so on, talking about issues, and of course with people like yourself, who we have many debates on issues.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would ask you too. I have my whole icebreaker set of cards here. Do you remember the first concert or show you attended? What was it? Was it a reggae show? Was it
in Grenada or
in Grenada?
I mean, the one
in Grenada.
In Grenada, it would have been a reggae show. I think I can't remember which one was the first, but I did go to quite a bit of reggae shows. I grew up at the time of reggae, but the show I remember most is a show I attended in New York, and it always came to my mind. Gil Scott-Heron, Gil Scott-Heron, old progressive musician, and his show had an impact on me because those were the days of the Black Power movement, and Gil Scott-Heron was one of the architects of that period.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now, the two final questions. Now, if you could switch places with one of your friends for a day, what would you switch places doing outside of politics and law? I know you mentioned cricket just now there.
Flying a plane. I always wanted to be a pilot. You know, as a kid, always wanted to be a pilot. Every time I go on a plane, I wish I could go up to the pilot and say, "Can I fly for these next 15 minutes?" So if I have a friend who's flying the plane, that is what I would ask for one day, to fly a plane. I'm fascinated by aircraft, and that's a dream I had, but never was able to pursue it.
Oh, wow. You wanted to be a pilot. Interesting.
Yeah.
And finally, what was your first car?
A Volkswagen Beetle. I'll never forget that. A red Volkswagen Beetle. In fact, the memory I have of that Beetle is running off the road in Tantine in a big drain next to the high school and feeling so embarrassed because it was about 3 o'clock when all the kids were coming from school. So that was my first car, Volkswagen Beetle.
That is good to know. That is good to know. But Mr. David, of course, before we get into a conversation on the movement, which will inform the second part of our interview today, I do want to first and foremost begin by talking about the business of Parliament and the performance of the Speaker. Of course, I articulated an editorial in the opening of the program today with respect to what we have been seeing in Parliament over the last 2 weeks, really. Especially at a time when there are so much urgent pressing matters to deal with, including that issue of the fisheries export ban. That personally, to me, I thought that would have been the first legislation to be brought before Parliament. But let us get your thoughts on, of course, the absence of the opposition in Parliament last week, them putting out a statement, then the government putting out a statement to rebut what they said. And of course, given the abrupt cancellation of Parliament the week before, because again the opposition articulated that they did not get the order paper and the legislation on time. So let us begin there. Are you concerned about the conduct of the Speaker and how the business of the Parliament is conducted?
Well, I'm concerned about how serious we take Parliament, and what is happening at the parliamentary level is reflective of what is taking place in our politics. The politics of confusion and politics of not focusing on the main issues. I believe, of course, there's inexperience at the level of the government, there's inexperience at the level of many of the members of Parliament, and things are not 100% done properly at the parliamentary level. There's breach of the rules, and there's all of that. And then there's the other issue of how do we correct these things? And I think, when the people, I'm talking about the people who elect us to Parliament, see that kind of activity, that kind of behavior in Parliament, then they are prone to thinking, you know what, it is okay for us to just keep fighting each other. Let's just keep fighting each other. I chose to stay in the Parliament despite the fact that there are things I have difficulties with. Why? Because there are major issues I want to address. So, for example, last week, we were on the brink of a possible breakout of a war, a nuclear war maybe, based on how the great powers are getting involved in it. So I believe we have to address these issues in Parliament. In fact, I thought we would have motions and more discussions. As I said to my colleague members of Parliament, they represent the people. And when we go to Parliament, it's essentially about representing the people. We are not there in our personal capacity. I'm not there representing Peter, David, and family. I'm there representing the people of the town of St. George and people throughout the country. We are all there collectively to represent the people. So I think we need to focus more on that. I think we need to sit behind closed doors, solve some of the technical problems, some of the experience issues, and solve these problems. But when we get to Parliament, I think we need to discuss the issues that people have elected us to discuss. And that goes to the core of what we're about, what the movement has been speaking about. The politics whereby we have differences, but we also have common interests. And the common interest is coming together to solve the problem. You raise a problem with the fishermen. That needs to be dealt with, because it's I raised it in the context of the issue with Venezuela and the United States, that issue will affect our fishermen, it will affect our tourism industry, it will affect all aspects of our economy. we need to address the issues rather than just seeming to be fighting day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, election after election, back and forth fighting. That is not what I believe is healthy, but certainly there are problems in the parliament. I'm not saying that everything is hunky-dory, everything is going smooth. The question is, how do we resolve these issues? And I believe it should be resolved by discussion between the parties.
Mm-hmm. What about the performance of the speaker, the specific to the performance of the speaker? You have any thoughts? I was in the parliament, the session.
I have issues. I mean, people
he refused to allow you to speak on the adjournment. And I'm saying, what is that?
And I said openly that I disagreed with him, that I have the right to speak on the adjournment. And we will continue to discuss that, because he was saying that according to the rules, we have to wait for an adjournment for the entire sitting, meaning whenever sitting ends down the road. I believe, no, it's at any motion, and there was a motion to adjourn. I believe I had the right. But nonetheless, we got through that, and we got to the main issues in the subsequent sitting. So I don't want to belabor that point. I believe that we should sit with the speaker, we should sit with the parliamentary representatives and come to agreement on these things on the way forward, so that when we sit before the people, we are discussing the issues that touch and concern the lives of our people, which is cost of living, which is healthcare, which is the war that is about to break out. All of these issues need to be addressed at the parliamentary level. At the parliament, we are discussing the issues that the people have elected us to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. David, finally, on that issue here with respect to parliament and service of members of parliament to their constituents, what accounting mechanisms exist now? I know the Prime Minister articulated the view that the allowances, the parliamentary allowances were raised. He indicated that, as part of institutional strengthening, parliamentary representatives were given vehicles. How have you been accounting to the parliament with respect to your own service in the town of St. George? And of course, the truth is you were also one of those who advocated for an increase in the salaries of parliamentarians as well. The history needs to record that as well.
Yes, we first of all, let me say that we appreciate the increased assistance we've been getting. I think that has gone away. It's not a lot. It's not able to solve the problems of people who come to us, but I must appreciate the fact that it's been elevated. I think, though, and we have been making accounting to the government. We have a very, very strict, my office manager, Derek James, somebody who knows, is very, very strict on accounting for every cent that is spent in our office. So that is taken care of. I think what needs to be done is to find mechanisms for us not to just account to the government, but to account to the people. And that is something that we believe would require some again, bipartisan arrangement, the way you have it in California, Kellan, where midterm you account to the people for what you're doing. I think the accounting to the government, as far as we are concerned, is in place. What we need to do is to establish constitutional adjustments that can allow us to account to the people for what we've been doing during our stewardship in Parliament. And that will deepen our democratic processes, and it will also lead to people having more confidence in the persons whom they elect. So there's two levels of accounting. To the government, we're fine, but to the people, I think we need actual mechanisms that bind us to make these accounting mechanisms, these accountability responses to our people.
Mm-hmm. And finally, on foreign policy, how do you react to the government's position on the radar issue? Of course, Peter Wickham, of course, no stranger to you, no stranger to the region. He gave compliments and credit to the Deacon Mitchell government on their handling of the issue by of course, not saying yes or no. But Mr. Wickham seems to think that the government is going in the direction of no. How would you rate the government's performance? Of course, the opposition in Grenada, they have articulated the view that the administration, again, because of their inexperience, that's their words, they have not been able to treat with these diplomatic issues in a way that should really rise to the occasion. What are your thoughts on with respect to the government's handling of this issue? We know what your position is, of course.
Yeah, I understand the difficulties of the government's predicament, as it were. It is a difficult decision to make. It is a difficult issue to confront. I don't think there's any government in Grenada who would want or who would welcome to be in that predicament. So let me first acknowledge it is not an easy yes or no, because there are consequences, and severe consequences are possible either way. If we say yes, it means that we are putting a target on the backs of Grenada and of Grenada in general. If we say no, we see the wrath of the US government. And we've seen what has happened to Cuba, what has happened to Venezuela, what has happened to many countries with sanctions, etc., etc. So it is not an easy decision you wake up and say yes. So I know the government is being deliberate. I have said, and I've said publicly, that we should support the government. But I believe what I mean when I say that, support the government in saying no. Because at the end of the day, it is also a political decision for the government. So I understand the deliberate approach to it, and I do hope, and I've expressed my position abundantly clear. In fact, I came out on the 13th of several weeks ago on this issue, and I've reiterated my position, and I've called upon the other members of parliament to represent their people and indicate what is the position of their people. Meaning, we are there in the parliament to represent people. But I am not by any means suggesting it's an easy thing for them. So if they're being deliberate, I don't know what discussions are taking place behind the scenes. I don't know what threats exist. I don't know the details. I am not inside. All I hope is that we make a decision that preserves the region, preserves especially the Southern Caribbean, as a zone of peace, because the consequences, and Kellen, when you study what took place during the Cuban Missile Crisis, it came extremely close to nuclear war in these areas.
Yeah.
I think we should be very, very, very careful, and I urge the government to say no. But I'm not suggesting that I know the pace at which they should operate, and I do not know the details. So all I said to them is, we the people, meaning the people of Grenada, that I have been in contact with, will give them support. If they say no, the people will be with them. And that is my position. So I'm not pushing here or there with them, because I do believe, as Peter would have indicated, that they are moving deliberately and carefully to try to preserve the interests of Grenada. I do believe everybody in Grenada has the interest of Grenada when they make comments on this. But as Michael Batiste told me, I was very, very pleased. He said, Peter, I don't disagree with you. But I do respect the fact that you took a position, and as I said in Parliament, reasonable people can disagree on the issue, but I say no. Michael said, yes, we disagree, but we both respect each other for taking our positions and making it public.
Did the government approach you at all to get advice on how they should treat with this matter?
No, the government, I mean, I've offered myself. But
and did you offer? Yes.
No, I'm saying I did it publicly. As we said to the government, if they need discussions, we will engage with them. But I will do whatever it takes to help. If the government does approach, I will do that. But no, not at this time.
Absolutely. And Mr. David, as we go to break, because when we come back, we're getting straight into the movement, which was the talk of the town now.
Well,
go
ahead, sorry.
If you could meet any historical figure, who would it be? Any historical Grenadian figure? Not Bishop, not Gary, because you know those folks.
Historical, I'll answer that when I come back. You have me thinking. There's so many, I don't want to choose the wrong one. But I just correct something you said at the top. You said something at the top that needs to be corrected before I forget.
Yes.
You said the rank and file LNP did not agree with me being leader. That is not correct. The rank and file never had an opportunity to decide whether or not they wanted me as their leader. Why? Because it was made abundantly clear, pellucidly clear, as we say in court, that I will never be allowed to be the leader of the NNP. And that was said by somebody who has tremendous influence within the NNP. So no, it wasn't the rank and file.
All right.
It was the top file, if you call it that.
It was the top file. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, folks, we want to take a break. And please, as you're coming into the room, just make sure that you're liking and sharing today's conversation. We have the Honorable Peter David here, one of the longest serving members of Parliament, indeed, of the town of St. George. So we'll be right back, folks. We'll come back with that conversation on the movement, Grenada's newest political organization. Please stand by for that.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
And folks, very soon we'll be joining Mr. David again to be on the Bubb Report. But before we do, I do want to go down memory lane here a bit, because history would record that I've been interviewing Peter David since I was a 20-year-old in Grenada. So I think it would be important for me to go down memory lane now and just reflect
Subsequently,
with Mr. David here and Mr.
Not
Buck. This was back in 2002.
that
Approached Peter David when I, let me just play that here.
The October 19th travesty is the reemergence of, quote, ex-RNC elements into the political fold of the National Democratic Congress. Persons like George Prime, Peter David, Nazenberg, and Ferron Lowe were all part of the revolutionary process. We approached Peter David and Nazenberg to seek answers.
When were you promoted as Minister of Finance?
So that was a young Kellen Bubb here interviewing Mr. David and Mr. Burke. Of course, maybe in happier times in the NDC, Mr. David, yourself and Mr. Burke here. But that was back in October 2002, where I sat with you. You may or may not remember this, but let me get to the part where you are. Well, where is it?
There's a young man. There's a young man.
Yeah. Well, but you are in that video somewhere. Anyways, I thought the record would show that I am not a Johnny come lately to this, and neither are you.
No. We've been around. We've been around, Kellen.
So, Mr. David, let's get straight into it. Of course, the first question I have with respect to the movement.
Well, let me answer your first question.
Yes.
I'd love to meet T.A. Marisho.
T.A. Marisho.
Father of Federation. T.A.
Yes.
Marisho, Father of Federation. We'll talk about him. In fact, they're celebrating him at TAMCC this week. And I plan this week to go have a discussion with T.A. Marisho. We'll talk about it later. Let's get straight into it.
Yes. Let's get straight into it. Let's get straight into it, Mr. David. Now, Mr. David, I want to frame this conversation in the context of former third parties in Grenada. Now, in the United People's Party, that was one of the first third parties that was formed in Grenada. It was a small one-man party that was also part of the People's Alliance Coalition in 1976. That was formed by my former boss, who your PRG imprisoned. That was the late Leslie Pear in 1976, and Winston White. Then in May 1983, a couple months before the demise of the Grenada Revolution, the Grenada Democratic Movement was formed by Dr. Francis Alexis. Then the National Party by Ben Jones in 1989, followed by the People's Labor Movement, again by Dr. Francis Alexis in December 1995, following his ouster from the NDC administration led by Sir Nicholas Brathwaite, the late Sir Nicholas Brathwaite. And of course, fast forward to August of 2021, and Dr. Patrick Entwine, after falling out of grace with your former boss, Dr. Mitchell, formed the Grenada Movement. Now, all of these third parties, Mr. David, are defunct. Now, what makes the movement different? And how will the movement not suffer the fate of other third parties in Grenada?
Is the NDC defunct? I remember it being a third party formed out of the NNP. You recall that part too, or you forgot that?
Well, you are a lawyer
forgot
there.
that.
No,
You
it's
forgot that.
yes.
You forgot that the NNP came as a result of persons leaving the NNP.
NNP, yes.
So
History
it is
would
not,
record that.
and you forgot that the NGM was formed back in 1973 when there were two major parties, the GNP and the GULP.
Yes.
So yeah, there are third parties that rose and third parties that didn't rise, depending on the historic circumstances. In addition to that, some of the third parties played a critical role, or the leaders of some of the third parties played a critical role. You remember the elections of 1990 where there was coalitions and all of that. So to just dismiss the rise of new formations is not as being failures is not entirely true. There were some that were successful, and there were some that played a role and came into arrangements with some of the parties that were successful. So there are all kinds of things that can happen. But yes, I believe there are some historic periods when it's not a third party rising, it's another party rising, and some parties failing. You saw what happened you went back to history. Well, in 1976, the GNP, which was a major party initially, had to come into an arrangement with the alliance in 1976. The alliance was an arrangement with UPP, GNP, and the NGM. And the NGM, which was what you would call the third party, became the leader, Maurice Bishop, of that alliance. So yes, it's not entirely true to just dismiss, because the parties we have today, the NNP and the NDC, didn't always exist. They rose at some point, and they succeeded in rising, and maybe, who knows, some will fail and some will continue, but it is not a permanent arrangement. And I believe that at this time, there are sufficient people dissatisfied with what has taken place over the last 30 or 40 years among the major parties, and they're looking in another direction. Listen, all of the people in the movement at the moment came from one of these parties, all of them. They didn't just exist out of nowhere. And we have had meetings upon meetings around the country with people who are saying, listen, we have voted for this or that party. We have put our faith in this or that party, but we are not satisfied. So we are prepared to look in another direction and give another direction a chance. That is democracy. Democracy doesn't mean you're born into a party, like some people say, I was born into an NNP family. No, there are a bunch of young people. And I spoke to one young man last night. It was very interesting. He said, Peter, I've been listening to you. I've been listening to your comments and the fact that you've not been attacking anybody. You've been talking about the issues, and that is what we want to hear. I spoke to another gentleman last night. I was in an activity. He said, you know what? I want to come and join you guys, but the family is not very supportive of me getting into frontline politics. So there are a group of people who want to come, but they're fearful of coming. They're fearful of coming. So because, politics has become such a blood sport. And what we are trying to do is to make politics simply about service. I hope that when people come to the launch, they come in a green jersey, they come in a yellow jersey, they come in a blue jersey, in their pink jersey, whatever is
I think we lost Mr.
offering a product.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead, Mr. David. Go ahead, please.
No.
I think we probably lost Mr. David there. Folks, we're going to try and...
You have me?
Yes, go ahead. Your internet froze there for a second, but go ahead now. It's back. Yes.
Yes. No, I'm just saying that we are offering a new type of politics. It's not just a new party, Galen. A new type of politics. A politics that focuses on the issues that touch and concern people's lives. That is why when we speak about the zone of peace, we're not speaking about it in the context of a political issue. It's in the context of a issue that touches and concerns the life of our people.
But Mr. David, you reference the other parties. You reference the alliance from the 70s and so on, and then of course you reference the NDC and of course 1990 when the NDC won. They won a plurality but not a majority of the seats. On both occasions, there was an interest from the main parties, from the other parties to get into coalition. Yes, coalition of interest here. In this era, both political parties seem to be very, very entrenched now, right? Under this new leadership of the NDC, under Deacon Mitchell, as well as under the continued leadership of the new National Party. Where you reference the fact that folks are coming from both sides, but isn't it the case that the structure of politics in Grenada has changed from the 70s or from the 90s, so much so that people are not necessarily, there is no appetite for getting into that type of coalition?
The appetite didn't come simply from a desire. It came from an objective necessity that there weren't sufficient people for them to go it alone, so they found arrangement with other people. In other words, they don't wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm going to join somebody else. There was a realization on the part of the GNP that they could not win an elections in 1976 without an arrangement with the NGM and the UPP. It was an objective necessity, not a political strategy on their part. It was an objective necessity. So I'm saying, at this time, it is not so entrenched. People have left. Listen, the NDC left the NNP and formed a party and won a few elections since then. People are leaving both parties and coming to other parties. That is why we have a change of government, Kellogg. We have a change in government because people change their minds from time to time. And I'm saying that I believe that the objective circumstances out there now have caused people to want to look in another direction. 26,000 people, according to, are not happy because they're not voting. Where are they? What do they want? We believe that the objective conditions out there now, there is a substantial amount of people who are not satisfied. Some of them will stick with their party. Some of them will say, despite all of what is happening, I will stick with my party. But some of them will say, you know what, we have a new arrangement. Let us go hear what they're saying. And God knows, when they listen, they may follow.
Now, let us talk about the ones who have come on board into your organization. Who are the players in the organization? And is there a constitutional and leadership structure in the organization? And Mr. David, why are you leading the movement? Why is it the case? Is it the case that you have self-appointed yourself as a leader, or is it that the rank and file of the movement, those who are in the party, have decided that you are the one to spearhead this organization at this time?
Well, Kellen, we're having this. You know what is amazing? We're having this conversation, and we haven't actually launched the movement yet. And we're having a conversation about what seats we win, who is on it, and we have not even launched. Imagine after we launch, what will happen? The bottom line is this arose out of dissatisfaction, and a lot of the dissatisfaction came around the time of my request to be allowed to be a candidate for leadership of the NNP. And there was dissatisfaction among a whole lot of people. There's so people in the NNP came, and then there's dissatisfaction with some of the what is happening in the NDC. So people are coming. I happen to be a member of parliament. I happen to have my seat secure at the moment, and I happen to have been in politics a long time. So I am naturally leading this process, or being asked to lead this process. And when we have the launch, and then we do have a constitution in the making. We do have a mechanism and an arrangement for the structuring of our party. Once we launch a party, all of that will become available to the public. Our constitution, our leadership structure, our constituency arrangements. I have been visiting constituencies up and down the country over the last several weeks. In fact, I've been to nearly all of the constituencies in the last few weeks. So it's something that is growing from the people, Kellen. This is not coming from top down. It is coming from a desire. And I'm sure people listening feel it. There is a desire for something new. Not a new party coming with the same old stories, but a new style of politics that puts the issues on the front burner. If you listen to all my podcasts, I praise the government where I need to do that. I criticize where I need to do that. And I offer solutions where it is necessary. So it's a new style of politics. And people who know me, the reason, Kellen, why I won twice with NMP and twice with NDC is because people see me. They don't see the party. They don't see any tribal war. They see me offering myself to serve people.
So let us talk about the other players. Who are the other players in the organization? I know that Dr. Bridgman has publicly declared his hand as being a part of the movement. Then you have a brother from the St. George North West constituency, I believe, is Mr. Bain, Alistair Bain. Who are the other players?
There are many other players. I mean, on Sunday you will see some of them on the stage. You will see some of them making contributions. We are not going to unveil everything here, else you won't come to the activity on Sunday. So we have players from all around the country, and we plan to launch a full slate of people. But Sunday, we have to leave something for you to come see on Sunday, Kellen. I hope you'll be there, if not physically, certainly.
I would certainly be tuning in. I would want to see if those who are part of Dr. Antoine's previous movement would be there.
Were you part of that?
Well, absolutely not. I'm referencing here Sister Jenny and others. Sister Jenny, are you going to be there? I'm asking if Sister Jenny's watching.
Let's see. We have 7 days to go, Kellen. You never know.
Yeah, but let us.
We do have a solid slate of people. We have from St. Patrick's in the north to St. George's in the south. We have a solid slate of people. I have been receiving calls every day from people who are interested, not only in joining as candidate, but in contributing, in offering ideas. I find that there are a lot of people who feel alienated from the political sphere, alienated from contributing. But more importantly, there are a substantial amount of people who fear coming forward and giving contributions, giving ideas. And that, to me, is one of the failings of this process. That they are good people, you know, as I always say, my mantra, for evil to triumph, it's sufficient that good people say nothing. That there are a number of good people who are coming forward and offering themselves.
I'm not too sure. Yes, Peter, are you able to hear me? You're able to hear me good, yes?
I'm hearing you.
Yes, go ahead. I'm not too sure if... because I'm not hearing you on my end. Just please stand by. Just please stand by here. Hold
I'm
on
hearing you well.
Okay, folks, we're back. I just lost my audio momentarily there, but that issue has since been quickly resolved. So, Mr. David, if you can just come back into the room there, sir. So let us talk about the vision, Mr. David, of this new organization. How is it going to be different? I know you're talking about a new way of thinking about the political process, just getting away from this sort of hyper partisanship that exists not only in Grenada, but quite frankly in the Caribbean, owing to the Westminster setup. So how are you going to be, as an organization, going to try and avoid the pitfalls of the past or the present with respect to the current political structure that exists?
Yeah, Kellen, it's a very serious problem. And I think we don't take it seriously in the Caribbean at all. In fact, it's also affecting the United States now. You've become so partisan in the US. It's amazing. But, you know, I want to say, look at what happened in New York with Mambani. I mean, he came from 1%. You talk about new parties, he started at 1% and was able to get himself elected mayor because he preached that similar message to the message of what concerns the people. But to go back to your question, Kellen, it's not going to be easy. And none of us is suggesting it's going to be easy. It takes an absolute reset of our thinking about politics. Over the last 30, 40 years, our politics has been deeply tribalized. People tell you, listen, I don't care who it is. A woman came up to me the other day in the supermarket. She said, Peter, I like you, know. I would love you to be my MP. Bahama, and she called her party's name. And I said, so even if you believe I'll be a better MP, you will not vote for me. She said, no, because I'm a member of the other party. And that is the depth of this thing. So there has to be a whole cultural reset. I believe that we can get it done. I believe you have to start by changing people's perception of what politics is. Politics is not a blood sport. Politics touches and concerns every aspect of your life. The cost of living, healthcare, housing, all of what you do, agriculture, tourism. So we first have to educate our people. If you listen to all of our pronouncements, all of our podcasts, all of our meetings. That is what we've been preaching. Other than that, too, Kellen, we have to talk to the leadership of these organizations and find ways to come to agreement so that our membership understands that. I believe that one of the biggest problems we face in our country is the fact that we don't plan. Nothing is planned in terms of our development. So we need, it's an overarching problem, planning our development. And I believe the planning process needs to find consensus. Consensus means we need to at least begin to speak to each other. And that is our beginning. Let us have decent, although we don't agree on everything, let us have conversations between each other. That way, our people will come to understand that it is not a sin to have a conversation with somebody from the other party. So that is an underlying platform issue for us, that we need to plan our development, but in order to plan properly, we need to find consensus on unity among our countries. So for example, we have a national plan 2035. It needs to be rooted in our people. Our 2035 plan must be rooted in our people so that all of our people agree on it, all of our leadership agrees on it, so that we can, even if governments change, we can have that. And there are a number of issues that we can discuss. The issues of population growth, the issues of cost of living, those issues we can discuss details, but the underlying feature for us is to find ways to plan our development. So for example, our transportation system needs to be planned. Our agricultural system needs to be planned, but that planning must take place in a way that involves all of our people, not just a segment. Because what happens when you have one government, it's happened in the last, I see with the national health insurance. The NNP did a substantial amount of work in national health insurance, got to the brink of establishing national health insurance, but it went on the back burner with the new administration. I believe it is something that we need. I believe it's something that we must do, but we must come to consensus and agreement on the things that are necessary. If you look at countries like China and Singapore, these countries develop rapidly. These countries develop rapidly because of intense planning and focus of the entire country, despite who may be in office, who may be the leader of China. There is a focus on that development. We need to do a similar approach. Singapore is not a left-wing country. It is not, Lee Kuan Yew is by no means like China. So you have China on one hand, and you have Singapore on the other hand, and many other countries. Dubai, in the Middle East, they plan their development. Planning is not a socialist thing or a communist thing or a capitalist thing. It is a development thing. So we must plan our development, and we need to develop a ministry of planning to do that. But again, we need to find consensus across the table in order to have that development.
Mr. David, I couldn't help but notice that you're invoking of Zoran Mamdani here with respect to Zoran's victory in the New York mayoral election. Of course, you and Zoran probably ideologically aligned. You're both proud leftists, I suppose. But maybe that's where the comparison ends, Mr. David. Zoran was taking on an establishment. He was taking on a candidate who was there for a long time, as you have been there for a long time. The population of Grenada is a very youthful population, and there appears to be appetite for a much more youthful leadership in the country. What makes you, Mr. David, so sure that you would be the perfect person to lead a new organization?
You're mischaracterizing Zoran. Zoran didn't come out against all elderly people. Zoran is not saying you are over 40.
No, Mr. David, he came out against Andrew Cuomo, who has been established like yourself in governance.
No, Kellon. Zoran didn't come out against Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo was challenging Zoran, and Zoran got the support of the Democratic Party. Andrew Cuomo decided to come from outside and fight. But the point I'm making, Zoran Mamdani ran on a campaign against what he thought were establishment issues. It was not an issue. I don't agree with Andrew Cuomo's vote for me. I'm not saying our issues are the same. I'm simply saying I'm simply saying about Zoran Mambani that he started at 1%. And nobody gave him a chance. That's the only point I made with Zoran. Now, with respect to us, we have our issues. We have the issues that we need to break down. We need to break down this divisive politics that is taking place in Grenada. That is to me, that is the challenge we have. How do we come together? Be it we come together to go left or to go right or to center, to go north. How do we come together as a people? Zoran being on the left and me being a media characterized in a particular way is not the issue. The issue is coming together. And what Zoran saw was New Yorkers need to come together to solve cost of living issues, affordability issues. In other words, the issues that touch and concern the people. And these issues don't touch and concern you because you're NMP or NDC or rich or poor. It concerns all of us in Grenada. And the point I'm making is we need to come together. We need to first of all identify who's the enemy. The enemy is not your NDC or your NMP neighbor. The enemy is high cost of living. The enemy is lack of health care. The enemy is lack of proper education. The enemy is lack of resources for persons to establish businesses. Those are our enemies. And all of us, NMP, NDC, TNP, GULP, need to come together on these issues. And that is the point I'm making, Kellan. Not whether or not you left, right, center, or, within our party, within our movement, there are people all from all backgrounds. We have very religious persons. We have persons who are not so religious. We have persons who may have been in the trade union movement. We have business people. We have all of these. But the enemy we are confronting is the enemy of underdevelopment that has plagued us, despite the change in government year of election after election. Those are the things we have to fight. And I believe, and we believe, that in order to fight that, we have to cease and desist from this internal tribal war where we just fight each other. 26,000 people are so dissatisfied they don't even bother to participate.
Mr. David, let us talk about how you are going to, I suppose, I do not want to say wean yourself of the burden of being a part of the two major political parties in Grenada, but I suppose that framing might suffice. In this case, you've been part of both political parties, and your exit from both political parties was nothing short of gracious. It always came with rancor. Of course, some of that rancor, you may say, of course, in the context of the NDC, you were expelled. In the context of the NNP, you left, but of course, there was a sort of a movement to get you out of that party. You were part of both political parties in Grenada. And of course, one might argue that you being a part of both political parties and the history you had with both political parties perhaps might be a liability. Is that something that you've thought about?
Well, Keller, when I was expelled from the NDC, I was asked. Well, first of all, let me start by saying this. I was asked by both parties to join. I was approached by Jerome Joseph and several others, not myself alone, to join the NDC, and we joined. And we were successful. And then there was a group of people in the NDC who felt threatened by us. And the amazing thing, they expelled us, and then the people expelled them. So that is the history of the NDC. When they expelled us, they were expelled themselves in the following election. With respect to the NNP, I was approached by the leaders of the NNP. I didn't go seeking to join the NNP. They came to me, and I joined because I hesitated. I didn't participate. I didn't just jump. I didn't participate in the 2013 election because I decided to sit it out. And then I was approached, and I joined the NNP. And then as a result of that, I became a candidate in the following election in 2018. And I won the election, despite the fact that I came from the NDC. So my record is a record of success. But in addition to that, I have never, and nobody can find anything anywhere where I have come out fighting against either party, because I have met good people. I met good people in the NDC, and I met good people in the NNP, and they remain friends. The bottom line is this, and there were things I would have liked to do and to achieve in both parties that I was not able to achieve because I was not the leader. And remember, I am coming in to somebody else's house. I have to watch where I put my foot. I have to make sure I wash the dishes and to be a good member. things that I supported and things that I did not support. For example, I believe we could have solved the pension issue. I made efforts, it didn't work, but that's fine, that's history. I'm not here to bad talk any party. I remember when I fought as Minister of Civil Aviation to rename the international airport, Maurice Bishop International Airport, I nearly lost my job. But I continued with it because the people were supporting. So there were things in both parties I supported and things I didn't support. But I was a member of the party and therefore we proceeded. So at the end of the day, I believe with this movement, I have been urged, and this is not me just simply stand up and say, I want to be. No, it is something that the people seem to be saying, let us do this because we can succeed.
We do want to get to some viewer comments as well into this conversation. We have Chenny Joseph here saying, Comrade seems to be playing the role of the glue to what may be required to attract the best available people whose vision may be the best for Grenada. I'm not sure if Mr. David wants to comment on that.
Well, Chenny, I'm glad you called his name Chenny Joseph. Chenny Joseph is a person who worked with me in the NDC, and we've remained friends all the years. And one thing I know about Chenny is his excellent ideas that he has. He comes to me with 20 ideas, but I tell him 5 of them may be great. The other 15 will cost too much money. But the bottom line is, Chenny is correct. I hope that we can attract people who believe in Grenada. Kellon, if we get people who believe in Grenada, forget which tribe they're in, to come together, imagine the kind of society we can build if all of the talented people who have a love for this country just decide to come together. We may disagree, we may criticize, but we sit and work out a way to build this country. It will be fascinating. And at my stage in life, and you're right, I'm toward the twilight of my years. But one thing I dream of, and this has always been my dream, and people who know me, as Chenny does, know that my fight is not a fight for any personal gain. It is a fight by Brother Kellon because I truly believe that we can build a better society. And I believe one of the main difficulties is not using all of the talents that exist in this country to come together, to offer themselves. You know why too? Many people fear. Because the day you come in and you criticize something, oh boy, you got this. The day you come in and you support them, boy, you got this. I invite everybody to come. Everybody to come. Let us have a discourse about the future. I believe
we have another viewer comment, Amanda Francis. The tribalism politics is the reason for the lack of more progress across the Caribbean region. But Peterstown is well sweet. I know Amanda.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means, Amanda. I don't know
if that's good or bad.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she's referencing that you have a forked tongue. I don't know. But
I have always, Kellon, if anybody knows me, and I told this to both Tillman Thomas and Dr. Keith Mitchell, that one thing I do, I speak truth to power with all the decency that I learned as a child growing up. I'm never disrespectful, but I speak truth to power.
You speak truth to power. Okay. Let's get to another comment here. The birth of one party will always get one out. Pedro, you will make them see third party. Could you? This is a lot, sir. I am not sure. I'm not following. Sorry, the comment, Mr. Filbert. I'm not following the comment here. So let's get to some other viewer comments. Can somebody help me understand why Peter can understand that he's been used by the oral code faction of the New Drill movement? Is that still a thing? I don't know.
I have been used by Tillman Thomas. I've been used by Keith Mitchell. I've been used by the oral faction. It's just the same absolute nonsense that I don't think deserves a response, because at the end of the day, I have been elected by the people 4 times. That person is just playing to the harmony that he has. No, I'm not being used by anybody.
Yeah. 26,000 non-voters is what percentage of the Grenada electorate? About a third or higher? I think that the viewer here is really speaking to this question of the non-voting population in Grenada. Is that something that factored into your calculation for determining that a new organization would be necessary or best to capture that non-voting demographic of Grenadians?
You know what? And I think the number of people who don't vote will increase in the next election. Why do I say that? I think that people were dissatisfied with the NNP. That is why they voted NDC, not necessarily because they had faith that NDC would do everything well. I think it was an anti-NNP vote for several reasons, and maybe tiredness and all of that. And I think they've come with the NDC now. There's dissatisfaction, even by persons who are members of the NDC. So there is some dissatisfaction out there. And I think in the next election we run the risk that there'll be a higher number of people who say, you know what, I am voting because I didn't see anything to vote for. I vote for one, I get this. I vote for one, I get that. And if we can offer not a other tribal perspective, but a perspective that seeks to bring people together. And I know people find it hard to believe we can do it. People have been so cultured to always be fighting that people don't believe they can agree with their neighbor. I always say to them, if you put people in a room and just tell them, let's talk about the issues confronting the community, they will all agree. You send them out of the room and you bring them back and tell them stand up under their tribal banners, they will be fighting each other simply because they identify the tribe and the issue, not just the issue. So I believe, it's difficult for people to believe in themselves. I say to people in the communities, you have the power. You, the people, have the power. But we tend to give the politicians the power and then we cry for 5 years when they don't get what you want. Take that power into your hands. Take it into your hands. Let us build a movement. You can come with us in a movement or do it in whatever way you think is right for you. But let us try to make Grenada a better place, a place we know it can be if we come together and just stop all the bickering and focus. Focus on cost of living. Focus on healthcare, on housing. Focus on the things that matter to you when you go home, the things that you talk about when you're speaking to your husband, your wife, your kids. Those are the things that we need to focus on, not whether or not somebody outside there saying something or doing something. It's a new politics. It's a new politics, Kellogg.
Akima Paul Lambert is saying, thank you, Peter, for adding maturity to the debate. Issues are the enemy, not party.
Absolutely, Akima, you hit it on the head. Issues. Our enemy, as I said earlier, is underdevelopment. Our enemy is poverty. Our enemy is high prices of goods in the supermarket. Our enemy is our inability to get medicines when we go to the hospital. Those are the things that we should be fighting against. Not your neighbor, not your friend, not the person who has the same problems that you have. If we can find a way, I may be talking about a pie in the sky. I may be dreaming, but everything starts with a dream. If people like Akima and others, who I know are very talented people, progressive people, if we can find a way to come together, I am not the person with all the answers. I'm the person who identifies the problems and possible answers. Let us try to do it.
Well, yes, there is another comment here from Lydia Jim. She's saying, it amazes me how some politicians see and know all the answers when they're out of office, but blind when they're inside. And she's referencing you as a good example of that. I suppose the point that Ms. James is making here is that you've served in the executives of both, in the executive arms of government of both the NNP and the NDC. And so all of what you're articulating now with respect to your vision, could you not have articulated that within the confines of those political parties that you served in?
I addressed that a few minutes ago. Obviously, the person wasn't listening. Yes, I was in those parties. There are things I agreed on and things I disagreed on. But what brought me to this place is the realization that within those two structures, both of them, I told you my experience with renaming International Airport and my experience in NNP in several other areas, but I don't want to wash dirty linen in public, as it were. I'm saying I have learned from my experience that there are good people in both parties, but there are people who are not so good in both parties. And I have come to this, and it's not me alone. So when she is saying that yes, I have grown. And I do expect all of us to grow, including the person who's saying that, to learn and to develop. And I've come to the stage where I believe the fundamental problem facing us is that same tribalism that's been expressed there. The way it's Peter David speaking, so you have to attack him because Peter David is the enemy. Listen to what I am saying, not who is saying it. I think that will take us a long way. And I am saying it, yes, ma'am, because of the experience I've had. I believe that within both parties, major parties, and in the Caribbean as a whole, as you indicated, Kellogg, that issue is ever present, where people are not focused, as Akima said, on the issues, but who is speaking. So that comment there only had to do with the fact that Peter David is saying it. What about the substance of what I'm saying? Are you agreed or are you disagreed? And let us discuss if you disagree. That is the kind of discourse we need to have. Not this discourse, the boy Peter on the television, or let's go and cuss him out without even listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah, but let us talk about following the launch of the political organization. What is going to be the strategy for mobilizing? Of course, you served also as General Secretary in the NDC and as Assistant General Secretary in the NNP. So you also come with a bunch of political talent around mobilization and things like that. What is going to be the movement strategy for really breaking through that wall, that wall of partisanship, but not only in Grenada, but of course we have a vast diaspora as well. What we'll be seeing the movement doing with respect to galvanizing that support that will be expected in order to win an election? It really comes down to winning elections and winning seats to serve.
Absolutely. We are going to be building the structure of the movement. We are going to ensure that in every constituency, in every area, we have mechanisms that would get the people involved. Because while there are a lot of people out there who express support, we have to get them involved. And I said, I know the fear. I know people have fear. People are getting involved, but we are going to be attracting them, trying to attract them into the mechanism. Of course, as I said, we have the Constitution. We are going to set up the movement structure. But in addition to that, we are going to try to develop community structures. I'll give you an example of something that happened the other night. And I went to a meeting in one of the constituencies in the north. And when I got there were not many people there, in the village, that is. And I said, well, where are the people in the village tonight? The squad. They said there were two meetings. There was one in Grenville by the NDC and one in St. Patrick by the NNP. And buses left going to those two meetings of the two parties. And I said to myself, is there a time when everybody in the constituency, forget the tribes, everybody come together to talk about the issues concerning this village or these villages clustered here? And they said no. And it dawned on me, Kellan, that each group, the NNP group and the NDC group, they're meeting separately with their tribes, but none of them are meeting together. And I suspect they have the same issues. So we need to discuss and try to develop mechanisms where we have these communities meeting together despite their political orientation. We are going to be trying to do that. Of course, we are not in government. We can't do it. We can't do it all alone. And then we have to come to the diaspora. The diaspora is our 16th constituency. I coined that phrase back in 2000.
Yes, you did.
Yes, the 18th constituency. And again, what has happened with the diaspora is a reflection of what happens with good ideas. I remember we had diaspora conferences, we had meetings, we had outreaches, we had very good ideas. I remember my good friend Jerry Edin come up with the idea of the diaspora bond. There was a lot happening. And then I was no longer the foreign minister, and the issue died. And then I came back again after, and then we developed relations with the IMO, the UN organization. And again, we developed proposals, government change, and the diaspora is no longer treated with the priority that I think it should be treated. We need to develop our mechanisms with the diaspora, not only when we need toys for the Christmas, not only when we have a hurricane, not only when we need something like some wheelchairs. We need the diaspora to be part of our governance. We need the diaspora. I have advocated and said publicly, I said it in New York about 2 years ago, that I believe we should appoint somebody in the Senate to represent the diaspora. They are such an important part of our landscape, not only politically, but economically. The diaspora is important. So there are many ideas. I hope to go out there right after we launch Kellan. We'll be taking a visit to the main diaspora centers to have a discussion again. And again, what we need to do is when we have good ideas, regardless of who is in office, let us implement them. And that is what we're going to be doing, developing community organizations, developing diaspora organizations, not along the partisan lines, but along the lines of the communities. And if we can get sufficient people to come out, and as I said, come in your green jersey, your yellow jersey, your blue jersey, whichever tribe you're in, come and hear what we have to offer, because what we're trying to offer is something that helps to build the country. Kellen, I've been in politics over 50 years, and I've seen optimism. I've seen hope. I remember when we won in 2008, there was, starry-eyed hope. When NDC won, there was hope, and then that hope is dashed. And I hope that we are going to be able to rekindle it, but to get together with others to try to move Grenada forward. I know I sound passionate. I know I sound very, very hopeful. But that is how we get things done. We dream of it, and then we make it happen.
Let's get to two other questions. Peter, why didn't you speak? This from Ernesto Jose. Why didn't you speak out about the victimization of people as Belfon, George Grant, Gemma Bain, and others?
How do person know I didn't? How do they know I didn't speak about it? You mean how I didn't make loud noise in the public about it?
Okay.
And then that is another question. So there are two issues there. You see, people again. I'm talking about issues, but I want to hear why I didn't do that. Let's talk about why we should do what we should do. Let's talk about why we should not use working people for our political gain rather than using them to help build the country we want to build.
Mm-hmm. Let us get to another question here. I thought that one was what plans, and this is from Susan Worm, again speaking to issues. What plans do you have for the further future medical system that you can improve it in the near future, should in case you won? What do you think? I suppose the question is about the current healthcare system in the country. Of course, you know that the administration has embarked upon Project Polaris. That is their signature assignment. They've also embarked upon having a new Carlton home being built. Apparently, there was a delay on that, as there are delays with many things. We're seeing many infrastructure delays in Grenada. And of course, that is an administration who spoke about implementation, having the best implementation rate ever. That was their spiel. But let us talk about healthcare based on what this view is.
Yes, but you mentioned Polaris. As I said in Parliament, and I will say again, I have no difficulty with the dream of building a new hospital. But it is, as it stands, a project that will take a long time. In fact, there seems to be there's no clear plan on how we'll get financing. When ministers say that they will be contributing their salaries, it tells you that there is no clear path for financing that. And I don't know, the fact that we can't adequately utilize the one we have, which is quite small compared to Polaris, how will we staff that one? How will we finance it? Are we expecting to get Grenadians to pay the high cost of certain levels of healthcare? I don't know. We need to see. We need to see the details. It is a dream, and of course, as I said earlier, we need to dream, but I'm not sure how that will work. And in the meantime, while you build Polaris, how will our people survive? Now, there's a question of medication, cost medication. We need to ensure that there is medication there that people can afford. Too many times I meet people. I met a girl the other day, and she was saying to me that she has to take a pill for some issue. She has to take one every day, but she's only able to buy certain amounts, and she's taking one every 2 days or one every other day, depending on how she can do it. We talked about the National Health Insurance. That was close to being finalized, but it has not been finalized. St. Lucia took on the same persons who are doing it in Grenada and are now in the process.
They're now implementing,
in St. Lucia. And we, you see, again, governments change, and what happens? You go back to the drawing board to change everything. Then there's the issue of community health. I go to the villages every day, and people are saying we need to ensure that we have access to healthcare in the villages. And we have spoken about mobile units, and we have many other ideas. We spoke about preventative care. How do we get men tested? You know, I do in my constituency office in the road, we did several clinics, and you'd be surprised to know how many people come up testing with problems with prostate and all kinds of problems because they do the test. So there are a number of things, but we are going to be unveiling some of them right after the launch. We have a policy committee that is there working on it. I can't go through everything today. But we have focused on healthcare. We have focused. Transportation is another area that we focused on. Transportation is a development issue. The amount of hours that have been productive hours that are being lost on the roads these days tells us that we need to have some focus. So there are a number of issues, and next Sunday we'll unveil some of them. And as we go on and meet the communities and meet the different stakeholders, the nurses, the doctors, the people in the communities, we'll be unveiling more ideas in that regard. But we do have a group of people, and Dr. Bridgman has been very, very active in developing those policies. I think he was on yesterday on a program 2 days ago on a morning program, and he's going to be there on Sunday unveiling some of these things.
Outside of Dr. Bridgman and outside of Mr. Bain, is there anyone else that you want to publicly tell us?
We have persons like Andy Best in St. Patrick. You may not know him, but he's in St. Patrick West. He's very well known out there. We have people like Pamela Williams in St. Andrew Northeast. So we have a group of people in some constituencies. We have 2, 3, 4 people who are vying to become candidates, but prepared to work with us, even if they're not candidates, and some other names that you'll hear of on Sunday, Kellan. But no, we are only active by way of finding people to be candidates. We are active finding people to come to help us build a movement that is capable of reflecting what needs to be done in our communities. Kellan, we have potential in this country. I know we have potential. We have potential in the diaspora, Grenadians in the diaspora like yourself. We need to tap into all of that. The Chinese, when the Chinese embarked on their path of development, look, the Indian diaspora. The Indian diaspora is extremely active. The India, I think the most active diaspora, for good or for bad, is the Israeli diaspora. And
they're very active. They're very active.
I don't want to trigger you there. But we need to find ways to utilize all of our resources. And we are a country. Grenada is not an ideological country. Grenada is a country of people who just want to build. Of course, there are people who believe in X, Y, Z, but mostly people just want to get good health, good education, ability to pay their bills, to send their kids to school, to send them to university, God's willing, and to have a decent life. And the Grenadians are decent people. But they are disappointed too many times. They have been disappointed. Disappointed in 1983, disappointed in election after election since 1983, disappointment after disappointment. And all of us have learned from this. And I do hope that we learn. I do hope that we say, listen, let's don't do it that way. The fact that you did it one way before means you should, and it failed, means you should learn how to do it the other way. So there, population. Do we have the size of population that we need for our development? Isn't that an issue we discuss, Kellan? That we have 100, ever since I was born, all I remember is 100,000 people. Is that sufficient? Do we need to raise population? Do we need to use immigration rules like Canada does to get immigration of a certain kind of quality of person? What do we need to do? Let's have that discussion. Let's have a discussion about optimum population. Let's have a discussion about agriculture, which centers on Grenada is good in certain crops, St. Vincent is good in root crops, St. Lucia is good in certain crops. Let us specialize in our countries, and let us have a good transportation system like we had with the federal palm and the federal maple. These are ideas we need to discuss. Whether or not you're NNP, NDC, PLM, movement, wherever you are, we need to have a discussion about development. And that is what we said. Of course, Kellan, I will come on the attack. I saw the attacks. The attacks will come. And the more we succeed, the more the attacks will be furious. But Kellan, I have always been attacked. But I've always said, I will not be responding to everybody who's going to attack me. I won't respond. I will only respond by saying that if your attacks on me will solve unemployment, will solve the cost of living problem, will solve our problems in agriculture, then attack me. But if it won't solve these problems, let's focus on the things that we can do to solve those problems, not be attacking me. I am not the enemy. The enemy is underdevelopment. The enemy is lack of education, lack of health. I do my bit, and God's willing, on the day I pass, I hope that my memory will be a good memory.
So Stephen McDonald is asking, do you have a movement team in Carriacou and PT Martinique?
Well, I know the name Steve McDonald, and I will invite him to join that team. Yes, we do have people in Carriacou who are interested, and of course, some of the things that and some of the people that are involved are not willing to openly say so, because I guess they're still. And there are a lot of people who are not sure we are going to launch this movement. There were people going around and saying, Peter will never do this, Peter will never do this. Now that it is being done, we are seeing a lot of responses, good responses from people I'm absolutely surprised had any interest in anything that seemed political. But let me say this about politics. Politics is not what people make it out to be. Politics is not the rancor and the cussing each other. Politics affects everything, and politics is what we do to try to make our country better.
And Peter, we will we'll take a break, but before we do, we'll take that break and then come up for closing comments. But let us talk about, of course, what I call your very unconventional political success in Grenada. You ran under the ticket of both the NDC. You won twice. You ran on the NNP ticket. You won, I believe, twice as well. Yeah. Of course, in the last election, however, Mr. David, you came. It was one of the closest margins yet. In fact, in this last election,
in my election,
in your constituency in the town of St. George, that's what I'm referencing now. In 2022, your opponent, who is the current Attorney General, Ms. Claudette Joseph, she got 1,118 votes, and you got 1,329 votes. Of course, that was it, as compared to other margins. You've won by much bigger margins in the town of St. George. How do you intend to buck that trend? Are you going to be making history, Mr. David, as perhaps one of those candidates in the next election, as part of the movement now, who might be able to again pull people from all sides to get that support?
I'll tell you some experiences I've had. I've had people come up to me. I remember come up to me and say, Peter, now that you're on your own, I'm back. You see, there are people who, some people didn't like LNP, some didn't like NDC, and they voted accordingly. And there was a anti-NNP vote in the last election. And of course, I got affected like everybody else in the NNP. There was a 12% dip for everybody in the NNP, so I got affected. I am hopeful, and I do believe that based on the responses I'm having, that we're going to be okay in the town of St. George. That the people in the town of St. George know me. And the reason why I won with both parties is they know me. They know that despite the fact that I'm not perfect, I do care. I do address the needs of the people of the town. And I know the people of the town of St. George. I've grown with them. I'm from the town of St. George. I spent my life in the town of St. George. So I'm not worried. Of course, the last election was one where all of us lost votes. But I am hopeful and I'm optimistic. And Dylan, the movement is not even launched yet. Imagine we're having this conversation and there's nothing officially called a movement. Imagine when we officially launch. I've been going around the country the last couple of days and people are asking for jerseys, asking all the paraphernalia that they like to have. And we're not launched. So I am optimistic. And I think it's not because I am any special person. I think it's simply because people want something new, something fresh. Not a new party, but a new type of politics, a politics that draws everybody together. And people, particularly in the town of St. George, I've been close friends with, and I remember when I went into a meeting some months ago after I had left the party, I met a lady. She said she was from NDC, and I saw her sitting there, and she was a bit grumpy with me for the last few years. And I saw her sitting there. I said, "What are you doing there?" She said, "Peter, I tell you, once you come on your own, I'll deal with you." So it's another gentleman said that to me a couple of weeks ago. I won't call people's names. So I am optimistic, Kellan. But at the end of the day, this is not about me. This is about us getting a new type of politics unveiled, a type of politics that draws our people together. And if I could be a force for uniting people around issues, as I said, of agriculture and housing, issues of high prices, those are the things that we need to address. not me, not Peter David. These things need to be addressed. So when you hear us speaking, you won't hear us attacking each other. I have no time for that, never had any time, despite all of the attacks. And I've been attacked. I mean, I have been attacked. Don't believe that I don't hear them. I have been attacked. I read social media. People send me posts. I have been attacked. But every time I receive attack, I say, you know what? Two things. One, I am not going to bring down myself to respond to this nonsense. But secondly, the only reason I'm being attacked is like what school children say. I never see school children pelting stone behind a green mango.
Okay. All right. One final question here from Peter Twine. What is your stand on the movement in fully vesting sovereignty in the citizens, people of Grenada, by making Grenada a full republic, and in addition to ensuring that all members of the Senate be subject to the vote of citizens in general elections?
Absolutely. I have said that up and down this country that we have to move further to get a more independent nation, to fulfill the task of our fathers, of the Marshals, who I admire, and the Manleys and the Williamses and the Burnhams and the Jagans and those who came before us fighting for independence. I think we tend to forget where we came from. We tend to forget that we came from a slave society. That is the history of Grenada, and we've evolved slowly, sometimes too slowly, but I think we're now ripe for having a republic. I think we're now ripe for full independence. I think we're now ripe to have a CCG. I think we're now ripe to give our people full independence. But also, we need to deepen our democracy. Deepen our democracy by having constitutional arrangements which gives people more power over their elected officials, so that elected officials do not come back to the people because they want to do the right thing. No, they come back to the people because the Constitution says that they have to come back to the people every so often. But we need to have a discussion again. You saw what happened when we had a constitutional referendum with the tribes. One tribe said, I agreed everything, but not under the other tribe. So I use the example, Kellen, of people saying,
and the same thing happened with independence too, right? They didn't want it under Gary.
I was part of that. People said, Keith Mitchell stayed too long. He stayed too long. Well, duh. He did offer constitutional change which limits the
terms of the Prime Minister.
And it was rejected by the same people who were saying he should leave. So it's an amazing thing when you divide your country into tribes. But that is how the Europeans conquered Africa. They conquered Africa, one of the richest continents in the world. They conquered it by dividing up. When they did the 1875, 1884, when they divided up the continent, they made sure that we constantly fight each other. But that is changing. Africa is on the rise again, and Grenada needs to be on the rise.
Mr. David, you brought up Dr. Mitchell. Are you in touch with Dr. Mitchell? Do you guys talk? Have you communicated? I mean, even in Parliament, do you say hi to each other?
But yes, we do say hi to each other. We do say hi to each other.
Oh, you do say hi to each other. Okay. And as we go to break, before we come back for final comments, what another icebreaker? Who in your life inspires you to be better?
My father and mother. I think of them every day. My father grew up poor. He grew up poor. My father had this dream. He didn't go to university. He wanted all his children to go to university. He took care of his family. He really took care of his family. And for me, but one thing about him, my mother made sure that we went to school and got an advanced education. My father made sure that all of it was possible financially. And one thing I know about him, and people in the town of St. George will tell you that people over the country, my father loved to see young people go for success. He loved to see them establish businesses. So he's my hero. She's my heroine. And my father was a kind man. I plan to write a piece on him one day. So he's my hero. And there are political heroes out there too, but I give my father the nod to me. Tomorrow you ask me, I'll give you another hero.
Absolutely. Viewers and listeners, we have
my father's name is Charles David. I know you know him, but I'll say.
But I know him. For the folks who don't know Charles David, yes. My grandmother knows Your entire family.
Yeah, they were good at
Yeah, absolutely. Viewers and listeners, we are in conversation with the Honorable Peter David, Member of Parliament for the town of St. George, who is here to have a conversation about the soon-to-be officially launched the movement in Grenada. So we'll take a quick break now and come back for closing comments with the Honorable MP for the town of St. George. Do stand by for that.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
Hi everyone, thanks for checking out the Bubb Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.
Tell us, a commissioner of police, tell a politician, back off. You have no knowledge of the law. You have no knowledge of law enforcement. You cannot force my officers to do the wrong thing.
But that is somebody's son. That is somebody's child. That is part of a family. And I think that is the part that they are missing out.
Because E and F are apt to be used oppressively.
It's like because we don't see disabled people as sexual beings, which is ridiculous.
You mean they don't want to listen to your version of science? They have their own science. You have your science.
What we need to do is teach people to think and not what to think.
Today, it's too bad that everybody do what they want.
If I could forgive Bernard Ford, then I could forgive Bubb too. And today, on this day, I no more have anything in my heart for what he did.
The education system has to be very fluid and dynamic because we're living in very different and changing times.
Treating all your citizens equally, all your citizens fairly, recognizing each group, not discriminating against one or the other.
Don't go there.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me here for much more than diplomatic passports. I don't mind that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. there are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not too sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. Let us talk. Let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bubb Report. We go there.
And viewers and listeners, welcome back to this week's edition of the Bubb Report. Of course, before we get to closing comments from Mr. David, I do want to go down. As a student of history, I really, really love history, and I credit my history teacher, my very, very first history teacher, Ali Gill, for instilling that love of history in me. But of course, the year was 2003, and history would record that Mr. David's, the party that he was once part of, of course, they tried to stop him from contesting the election in the town of St. George in 2003. And of course, this is a part of that, and I'm going to read that story. That was from the Grenadian Connection website at the time. Of course, I believe that was reproduced from the then Caribbean Net News paper. But it says, Parliamentary Representative for the town of St. George, Mr. Peter David, made his first court appearance in Grenada on Tuesday, February 2nd, to defend the validity of his election. Caribbean Net News understands that the Attorney General's chambers decided to go to court to declare David's parliamentary representation null and void. This was the NNP doing this at the time, meaning that he was not qualified to contest the general election and to sit in the House of Representatives. When the constitutional motion was filed in the name of the Attorney General challenging the purported 2003 nomination and election of Peter David, special legal advisor to the cabinet, Hugh Wildman, who remembers Hugh Wildman, said it was done based on two declarations. The first was by virtue of the fact that Mr. David was a citizen of Canada up to nomination day and was ineligible to be nominated to contest the general election for the constituency of the town of St. George. The second is that his purported election as a member of parliament for the town of St. George in November of 2003 is null and void as of no effect. And of course, the article goes on to say that David accuses the government of trying to thwart the democratic wishes of the people. He adds that the people have chosen whom they want to represent them in the town of St. George, and says it will not be an easy task to remove him. Of course, Mr. David, I'll bring you back on screen now to reflect on that period in history. Do you remember that, sir? I remember covering that extensively at the time.
My brother, I remember being in court that day when this thing was starting, when I was in court, and one of the journalists ran into the courtroom. I was on my feet, actually, arguing a case, and said, you've been challenged. And then it started from there. Yes, it was one of the periods where, that's why I tell people I've been through a fire, and it's the attempts to silence me. But I've always responded with as much grace as I can, because at the end of the day, I won. The government had to pay some fees to us, thousands of dollars because of it. But I said to them at the beginning, it is a nonsense case. But nobody listened in the government, and I won, and I'm still here, member of parliament, in the same circumstances. And you know what was sad? Several persons gave up their citizenships because of what they were told is the law.
Which was inaccurate, because you're Commonwealth citizens. Yeah,
absolutely. British and Canadians are allowed to do it, not American.
Not Americans, yes.
We said that, but we gave them an opinion from Carl Hudson Phillips that said that to them, and they still ignored it. But par for the course. That is why people are afraid of politics. That kind of nonsense.
And you are still here. I see you.
I'm still here, and I'm still member of parliament for the town of St. George.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Mr. David, I'll go over to you, sir, for some closing comments.
Yes, Kellen, it's always a pleasure having these discussions with you, discussions with the people. My journey, my political history is known to everyone, from the student movement in the 1970s through the 1980s, from the NDC with the NNP and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Tourism, Minister of Labor, Minister of Agriculture. I have had a good run, and throughout that period, I have learned. I have learned several things. I've learned, one, that governance is not easy, but also that we need all ideas on board, that Grenada will be better off with more people participating and more people having the right and the courage to say what they believe without being angry or so on. Because this is a small country. We have 100,000 people. We have limited resources. The only way we are going to move forward, the only way our children and our children's children are going to look back and say, my father and my grandfather did what was necessary to build, is if we come together, get all the ideas that are necessary, and get the will that is necessary and the courage that is necessary to build this country. I am hopeful, Kellen. I am absolutely optimistic. We've gone through a lot, but we'll get there. I am certain of that. And on next Sunday, November the 16th, at the Trade Center, you have buses, you have cars, you have people coming. Come with whatever regalia you want to wear. As I said, your green, your yellow, your blue, your pink, come with whatever you want to wear. But come listen to us. We have something we believe you can offer that can help advance Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique.
Mr. David, thank you so much for appearing on the Bubb Report this week. And please don't be a stranger, okay? When we call on you.
Not a problem. Not a problem, my brother. My daughter wants to say hi. Say hi.
Hi, daughter. Hi, daughter.
Have a good one, Keller. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take care. Viewers and listeners, that was, of course, the Honorable Peter David speaking about the launch of the movement that will be happening next week at the St. George's Trade Center, the Grenada Trade Center down there in Montrouge, happening next week, Sunday. Following that, of course, the movement will be having a diaspora tour of sorts. I believe they will be in New York, Canada, and other parts of the diaspora as well. Mr. David articulated, and a number that really stood out to me there was the 26,000 people who did not vote in the last election. So could this be a part of this new organization's base of support in Grenada? Of course, or as Mr. David articulated, are people so apathetic about the political process that they may stay away from any future electioneering processes that might, that of course will be undertaken in Grenada. Of course, you know, we have these cyclical elections every 5 years, constitutionally due. What about that 26,000? Of course, we want to hear from some of those 26,000 voters, the folks who did not vote in the last election. Why did you not vote? Are you attracted to the movement? Are you attracted to the message of the movement and what they're selling? Certainly, we want to hear from you. But certainly, we thank all of you viewers and listeners for participating in this week's program. Of course, we did not have a panel segment because we did want to dedicate time to speak with Mr. Peter David and to do a deep dive on Mr. David's foray into, well, not his new foray or anything like that, but his foray into having another political party. As I said in the lead up to the conversation with Mr. David on this, we have had several third parties in Grenada in the past. Of course, he pushed back by saying that some of those third parties served as entry points for getting into office in Grenada. And of course, but the reality is a plurality, a vast majority of those third parties did not have success. So will the movement, in fact, be breaking new ground with respect to achieving that success that Dr. Patrick Antoine tried and failed, that Dr. Alexis tried and failed, that Leslie Pierre, my old boss, in the 70s, he was part of the alliance, tried and failed. So let us see what that's going to look like. We have Ludwig Purcell here, who is saying the movement is the only way forward. Toro, who is here, Lincoln Depredine, he's saying great discussion and conversation. So folks, again, on behalf of the producers of the Bubb Report, I thank you again for tuning in to this week's program, and we will see you next week yet again for another installment of the Bubb Report. Take care. Have a great week ahead. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. Thanks for checking out the Bubb Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.